Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and sisters, we're assembled once again to express sincere reverence to our heroic dead. These graves represent the resting places of many departed comrades and sisters who served in all wars. Wherever a body of a comrade lies, there the ground is hallowed. Our presence here is in solemn commemoration of all these men and women, an expression of our tribute to their devotion, to duty, to their courage and patriotism. By their services on land, on sea, and in the air, they have made us their debtors, for the flag of our nation still flies over a land of free people. What we say and do today is symbolic of all American thoughts everywhere. This being a solemn occasion, there will be no applauding, please. Color Guard, attention. Parade, rest. We'll now have the invocation by Wayne Sampson.
This is called healing. Lord, you are the great physician who mends and restores broken bodies, minds, emotions, and relationships. In the name of Jesus, heal the painful memories and the trauma of war that my loved one and all those returning from combat face. Restore their minds and emotions. Comfort those who have lost friends and family members, and physically strengthen those who are recovering from wounds. As you see in the cemetery, all these flags, not only in this section, but throughout the whole cemetery, these people gave of their time, life, and efforts to preserve what we call the greatest country in the world. Amen.
Color Guard, attention. At ease. We'll now have Sleep Soldier Boy Sleep sung by Margaret Kostiuk. Thank you, Margaret. On this earth, we have but one life to live. we have the liberty to choose how we live and what actions we take. These men and women gave their time, effort, and even their own lives to protect and preserve life for everyone in this land. They served to defend and uphold the United States of America and the freedoms and the rights we hold so dear. Such a noble contribution is priceless. Some of these men and women we remember and honor now died in the heat of battle or from injuries inflicted upon them in the violence of war. Others passed after their service. No matter which, each and every one can be considered a hero for what they have done for us and our country. Ultimately, we would not have the freedom and the rights we cherish in our life if it were not for the service of these courageous men and women. Their bravery and actions have formed the base of our nation as we know it today. For them, we hold a love and appreciation so deep that it cannot often be told in words. It is difficult to convey the gratitude we have each day for their ultimate sacrifice. This gratitude, however, rings free today. It can be heard in the somber trumpeting of taps. It waves in the half-mast red, white, and blue of our flag. It stands out in the crimson poppies on our chest and in the presence at the cemetery. As we leave here today, let us never forget these men and women, our friends and family, not today, not tomorrow, nor any day of the year. Let us never forget the bravery and the dedication and the courage that beat in the hearts of all those who have served our great nation. Thank you. Royal Canadian Legion. American Legion. Gold Star Mothers. World War II and Korean. Vietnam and prisoner of war. Desert Storm. Iraq and Afghanistan. We will now have a reading of our departed comrades in the past year. Departed comrades in vain we call. Vincent S. Vinook, U.S. Army. Ernest Ernie John Carlson, U.S. Army. Eugene Early, U.S. Navy. Leroy Roy William Averill, U.S. Navy. Rodney Cal Page, U.S. Army. Willard Ardell Brenning, U.S. Army. George Shrodiak, U.S. Army. Gordon Raymond Amarud, U.S. Army. Howard B. Hansen, U.S. Navy. Paul Albert Engelson, U.S. Air Force. Pierre Peter Philip Dumas, U.S. Army Reserve. James William Bennett, U.S. Army. Donald William Cole, U.S. Army. Gordon Lewis Nelson, U.S. Navy. Douglas Rene LaFrance, U.S. Air Force. Jimmy Leroy Parsons Jr., U.S. Navy. Donald Kalos Rutledge, U.S. Air Force. Donald Red Roy McGinnis, U.S. Army. Charles Baldwin, U.S. Army. Dirk Lauren Kelly, U.S. Navy. Donald Eric Davis, U.S. Navy. Byron Johnson, U.S. Army. Morris Schoberg, U.S. Navy. Robert Edward Riley, United States Marine Corps. Walter Alvin Skoglund, U.S. Navy. Daniel Roy Schmidt, U.S. Navy. Stephen Anton Sr., U.S. Army Reserve. Leroy Franklin Sonstang, U.S. Army. Gerald B. Jerry Richards, United States Marine Corps. Marvin N. Morin, U.S. Navy. James Clyde Norton, U.S. Navy. Thomas Tom Morin, U.S. Air Force. Leslie Bud Donald Joslin, U.S. Navy. John Clement Rule, U.S. Navy Reserve. Ernest Bergie Darrell Berg, U.S. Army. Rudy Nordland, U.S. Army. Glenn Henry Gartsky, Sr., U.S. Army Reserve. Harvey Ross Brindos, U.S. Air Force. Stephen Alfred Stevens, U.S. Navy. Glenn Ivan Desens, U.S. Army. Ronald Dale Jean, U.S. Army. Marvin Robert Pearson, U.S. Army Signal Corps. Walter J. Viet, U.S. Navy. Paul B. Jensen, U.S. Air Force. Garnet Melvin Tater Tate, U.S. Army. Dwayne Myron Bush, U.S. Air Force. Richard Allen Frank, U.S. Army. Carl Robert Schuler, Jr., United States Marine Corps. Marvin Bernhard Herbert Richer, U.S. Army. Almond Hill, U.S. Army. Jerome William Shimon, U.S. Army. James J. Gordon, U.S. Army and United States Air Force. Norman T. Vollrath, U.S. Army. Frederick William Callies, U.S. Navy. Paul Silas Pops Wilcox, U.S. Army. Donald Wells Treat, U.S. Army. Francis William Anderson Sr., U.S. Army. Michael William McCurilla, U.S. Army. Eugene C. Tomjak, U.S. Army. Terry Shoquist, U.S. Army. Larry Dean Gilland, Minnesota National Guard. We have a total of 61 veterans who passed away this past year. Color Guard, attention. Present arms. We will now have a silent salute. To you, comrades and sisters who have departed, we render a silent salute. Comrades in the silent land beyond, wherever your mortal remains may rest, these solemn services we hold in tribute to you. Order, arms. Parade, rest. The memorial ritual asks that there be no applause. In keeping with this request, will you join me in a moment of silent prayer to remember the missing in action and those who died in the service of our nation? And when you hear the playing of taps by the bugler, recall the words, "Sleep in peace, soldier boy, till the bugle calls you with the dawn. Sleep and rest. God is nigh, soldier boy." Thank you. Color Guard, prepare to render honors.
Color Guard, left hand shoot. Forward. Prepare to fire. 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 Present course. Guard, quarter, horse, her braid, grip.
We walked among the crosses where our fallen soldiers lay, and listened to the bugle as taps began to play. The chaplain led a prayer. We stood with heads bowed low, and thought of fallen comrades I had known us so long ago. They came from every city across this fertile land, that we might live in freedom. They lie beneath the sand. I felt a little guilty. My sacrifice was small. I only lost a little time, but these men lost their all. Now the services are over for this Memorial Day. To the names upon these crosses, I just want to say, thanks for what you've given. No one could ask for more. May you rest with God in heaven from now through evermore. I would like to thank the VFW 2948 Honor Guard, the 2948 Auxiliary, the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 29 and their auxiliary, the Midwest Motorcycle Club, and all of you for attending our solemn ceremony today. May you go in peace and God bless you all. Thank you.
Color Guard, left hand shoot.
Color Guard.